What is happening, people? Welcome back to the Scarfey Spurs Talk Podcast. On this week's special additional episode, we're going to be reviewing that Forest defeat and also previewing Wolves. And to join me around this Christmas time, what could be another therapy session needed around Christmas, so people start out of the house and start to get annoyed with each other. They need that therapy session after a few days together. Sean, firstly, how you doing, mate?
I'm fine. I'm probably doing better than Ange Postecoglou today, who's sitting solo in his house, wondering how the hell am I going to get a result. But yeah, I'm fine. Doing okay.
Yeah, absolutely. People didn't see it then. Ange is, it's a tradition in his household to spend Christmas alone. I didn't expect that, but there we go. Each to their own. I mean, he might be thinking about Spurs at the moment, and as you said, feeling quite solo with the players we've got out and finding a way to try and win. But thank you very much for joining us, Sean. It's great to have you on the channel. Benjamin, welcome back onto the channel. Hope you're doing well.
Yeah, all good, mate. Looking forward. Well, it's a bit strange to say, but actually looking forward to tomorrow, to be fair. Like, home is always full of surprises, isn't it? So one thing it should be is entertaining, to say the least.
It should be. You're not entertained already. No, exactly. It should be. So we try and find some positives in there. Absolutely. Thank you very much for coming on. Joesph, welcome back. We actually got you on for a full podcast, hopefully this time, rather than me giving you a little shout halfway through when someone drops out. How you doing, mate?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. Hope everyone had a good Christmas. Interesting times at Tottenham, isn't it? So we don't know what the next day is going to bring us. So we're all in for the ride. So let's just see what happens.
Absolutely, an entertainment ride, if you like. But yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much to everyone for joining us. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to smash that subscribe button. It's free to do so, and it does help the channel and the podcast grow. If you're listening via audio on a podcast platform, don't forget to drop us a follow or a 5-star review. You can listen via Spotify, Amazon Music, or Apple Music, and do check out both our sponsors, the Kitman and Secure VPN. Let's jump straight into it. And before we go into the Forest game itself, let's go through both lineups, give people a better idea if you didn't see it. Our starting 11, down to the bare bones, was Fraser Forster, Spence, Dragusin, Gray, Udogie, Bentancur, Sarr, Kulusevski, Son, then Johnson and Solanke. Our substitutes were Austin, Reguilon, Porro, Basuma, Elise, Bergevall, Maddison, and Werner and Lancashire. Sean, is there any surprises in there? Anything you've done different? Obviously, Bentancur and Doggy coming back for us.
Yeah, I mean, at kickoff, I was quite happy that there was a certain amount of refreshing of the squad. I mean, Udogie had obviously missed the game before. Porro, who I think has been running on empty for about 6 weeks now, was getting a rest. And I love Bentancur, but maybe we need to get into his performance on the night itself. But, fresh legs and, a chance to, win at a ground that we've done quite well at in recent years. So, yeah, I was quite happy with the lineup when it was announced.
Yeah, no, I feel the same as you. That's good to hear. Yeah, thank you very much. We'll definitely get into people's performances. You mentioned Bentancur there. He's definitely got on my radar to discuss because we've got mixed thoughts from fans on his performance. Benjamin, what were your thoughts on that lineup? Was there anything that struck you by surprise or maybe you would have done differently at the time?
No, like Sean said, I was quite happy with the lineup, to be fair. I mean, we're quite patched up at the minute, aren't we? So, I was quite happy. I thought... Problem is, like a lot of fans, I think, are overreacting to, like, they're doing well, Forest. Like, they're no mugs, are they, at all? Like, they've had a good season. They're a well-organised side. And they've got that confidence on their side at the minute. And because they're doing what they're doing, they're going to get a little bit of luck as well. I don't think we played too bad, to be fair. But, they're a good side. And I thought the lineup was okay. I thought we might get something there. But I wasn't majorly...
Definitely.
Like ups or shots.
Yeah, no, I think it's a nice way of putting it. I was the same as you. I saw the lineup and thought, okay, maybe we could get something. But yeah, Forest had a really good season. I think it's easy to go, Spurs, and I think you still can do that, but also give credit to your position and the season that they're having, and recognise that they're actually it's not losing to, I don't know, Tamworth, who we play in a few weeks' time. This is a good Forest side that have done well, and it's they're there for a reason at the end of the day. So no, that's interesting to hear. Joesph, happy with the lineup as well?
Yeah, to be honest, I think it is similar to the one that I actually suggested when we were on the podcast before. I think with Brennan Johnson and Spence down that right side, I quite liked that. Quite liked seeing the that Nottingham Forest duo going against their old club. I think it was. I think it's right. I think Sean was right. We needed rotation with Porro, and I think Udogie needed a break. It's a shame we haven't got a natural left-sided player. We've had to play Spence there, but he has performed admirably in that position. It's exactly what I wanted. Bentancur back in the squad. Kulusevski through the middle. Yeah, I mean, it looked good on paper, but I think we all knew it was going to be a tough game going into that. I know we have had a lot of joy going to the City ground, but I don't know. I think this year it felt a bit different. I don't know if everyone expected us to get something from the game. I think people thought, with all these injuries, what's going to happen? I didn't think I expected 1-0, but it's still kind of the result I ended up expecting.
Yeah, exactly. And you obviously were on the little preview that we'd done, weren't you? That Forest game on the Monday night show, and we did touch on that. And your lineup, as you said, was similar, and we discussed it, and that's how you felt. So yeah, I think this is a reflection on what you predicted. So that's credit to you. Let's go through the YouTube chat now. For people listening live, big up to Tom Lowry. He says, good morning from Glasgow. Come on, you Spurs. Ange 100% all the way. I personally absolutely agree with you. We'll get on to Ange Postecoglou's future a little bit later because this is complete mixed opinions. And I was on Chris Cowlin's show at the Spurs Chat pod after the game, and there was real mix in there. Some people really strongly Ange out, and some people really strongly behind him more than ever. So it was interesting. But good morning to Tom and anyone else listening live, and good morning, good afternoon, and good evening as well, because you could be listening anywhere, anytime, could be before or after as well. You might be listening after, who knows. We'll get on to the game itself actually, but I'll run through the Forest lineup. Usually it's something we do when we have an opposition fan on, but I think it's good to bear in mind what Forest had at their disposal. They didn't have many players out. I think Sangare was one of the only players that had out. So their starting 11 was Sells, Aina, Milenkovic, Murillo, Williams. That backline's done really well this year. Yates, Anderson, and Gibbs-White in midfield. Then Alanga, Hudson-Odoi, and Chris Wood up top. Substitutes, they had Mikel, goalkeeper, Toffolo, Bolli, Morato, Moreno, Ward-Prowse, Silva, Soso, and Iwanyi. But we'll move on now to the game itself. And the first and only goal of the game come in the 28th minute, and it was a Forest goal through Alanga. Sean, has Udogie got to do better for you here? Because for me, Alanga gets goal side, and Udogie seems to be distracted about whether it's onside or not, and looking at the linesman.
To me, I think Udogie's going to get the attention because it comes down his side, and he does appear to falter. I mean, I must admit, when I first looked on the TV, I thought it was going to get pulled up for offside. It looked like he received it in offside position, but obviously relying on on technicalities is not really the way we it's not the football I grew up with. I mean, I have to say I'm very much against VAR, but it's it's not going to be changed now. But no, for me, that the fault lies with the midfield, because the midfield are trotting back, are not have been caught upfield, all in a line ahead of when Spence actually loses the ball in the middle of the field when the pass that was hit at it, and it was hit at him rather than passed to him. I mean, they just had acres and acres of room. I mean, there's some people who might have said that perhaps the centre back should have gone to challenge Hudson-Odoi, to cut off the chance, because he had so much room, and he carried the ball an awful long way, and no one challenged him. It's difficult. For me, the fault lies in midfield, in losing the ball so cheaply and not having the cover. I mean, it's even players who've got the legs like Sarr seem to be struggling to get back. And that's down to the fact that, we're overplaying these players now. I think it's difficult. Whether we like it or not, our players are playing far too much in a very competitive league, and it's we tend to find fault with the defence, but one of the big parts of an Ange defence is the fact that the midfield does a job. I live just outside Glasgow, so I've seen Ange up here at Celtic for the previous couple of years, and someone like Callum McGregor that does that number 6 job so well, and that's where where was number 6? There was no number 6. Everyone was even playing 8 or 10, and we were caught out by a break.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the thing. You talk about that midfield there. I mean, it was a quite a simple pass or two, and Forest completely cut us open. So I think you're right to raise the point. So thank you, Sean. Joesph, I'll come to you next. And tell you what, let's stick to the topic of how easily we're carved open. Does that concern you even more maybe than a Udogi's positioning in this goal?
Yeah, to be honest, I know it really does. I mean, Gibbs White had so much room to run into, and to be fair, I think it's something I've noticed with how we set up. Though we saw it against Chelsea, when Enzo Fernandez and Cole Palmer moved into that space in midfield, they had acres and acres of space. It's a bit confusing, really, because you've got Pape Sarr, you've got obviously Bentancur. I know it was Bentancur Bassoon, wasn't it? Was it those two started against Forest, or was Pape Sarr playing? I'm not sure.
Pape Sarr, Bentancur, and Kulu, yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, I guess the thing is that you wouldn't really actually say any of them are natural defensive number 6s. I think all of them are quite comfortable, like box-to-box players. Maybe we don't need that. Maybe we need someone who is naturally ready to sit and help the defence more, because all of our midfielders, even Basuma, they're not naturally very good ball winners. I think all of them are really willing to move forward with the ball, progress the ball, which is good at points. But exactly, when that ball's coming up against you, where Gibbs White had all that space to run into, there was no one there who was going to go stick a foot in. No one was close. And yeah, we've seen it in a couple of games recently. We've seen the amount of space the teammates get between opponents get between the lines. So I think that's maybe part of it is down to Ange's his tactics and his system there, because again, we should not be affording that much space in that area. But also maybe it's a personnel problem. Maybe we do need a more natural 6 who's ready to just sit there and win challenges and not allow those players to have that much room. Because Gibbs White's one of their danger men, and we gave him the freedom to exploit us. So yeah, it's definitely an issue. Udogie also partly an issue. I think he was kind of looking for a get out of jail free card, really, wasn't he, when Alanga was running through. I mean, I said, wasn't it, on the preview that I think Alanga and Hudson-Odoi are going to be one of the main issues with the pace they've got in behind, as well as the amount, the tiredness in our players. And that is what undid us. To be fair, I think Alanga and Hudson-Odoi are 2 quality players, really got to worry about them. But yeah, it wasn't really good enough from Udogie. I think he was kind of hoping that flag went up, because he never seemed ready to really challenge Alanga for that running behind.
Yeah, absolutely. He didn't do enough, and he didn't try and get a tackle in. He just he looked like a player. He'd literally just come back, which is the case with Udogie. Because what worried me is that Ange was adamant that he was there just for the numbers in that Liverpool game, which suggests he wasn't ready and he hasn't got a lot at his disposal. So I think that summed everything up. Benjamin, go for it.
I was looking at statistics, and I think Udogie has started 94% of our games this season. I mean, don't get me wrong, I think he's a quality player, but 94% in all competitions, that's shocking. That is way too much for one footballer. I understand maybe 94% in the Premier League, but that's across all competitions, and we play so much football. He can't, our players are going to be running on empty because we haven't got the squad depth. Who is the natural left back? We don't have another natural left back, really, do we?
Another factor in that, Joesph, is that Udogie did not have a pre-season. He had that injury late on at the back end of last season. he was still recovering from that injury. So he missed most of the pre-season. Remember, Donnelly was playing left back in the pre-season game, so I saw him playing there at left back up here in Edinburgh against Hearts. So, So I have to say, I'm giving Udogie some leeway because there's no doubt about it. If you miss pre-season with Ange, it does put you at a disadvantage. As you say, 94% of all our games is an awful lot to ask of him, given that he's coming back from a serious operation. I remember seeing him propped up in his bed at sort of whatever it was, April earlier this year, and that looked like a pretty serious chop into his leg, to recover that hamstring. So it's we lack coverage there, and he's been overplayed, much like Porro has on the other side.
Absolutely, yeah. They played a lot of games, and maybe that's why they've struggled a lot. Well, I think it is this year. Some people highlighted the fullbacks not quite being the same. Benjamin, I'll come to you because, like Joesph mentioned, Elanga there. I mean, he does really well, doesn't he, in this in particular goal? And he's got 3 goals his last 3 games. So some credit does lie for Forest for this goal, doesn't it?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, they're a very well-organised side. As I said earlier, I don't think we actually played that bad, but they just cut us open. It happens far too often. We just get exposed, don't we? And it's far too easy for the opposition. Credit where it's due. I'm a big fan of what they're achieving there. I think, I think they're doing really well. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but they're the only team to get anything from Anfield, aren't they? Like a win.
Yeah.
Like they beat the league leaders. They're having a good season. They're a good organised side. I was hoping we'd get something out of it, but credit where it's due. I mean, he's doing a great job. Like there, he's making them proud.
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, like we just got torn open. Like happens far too often, doesn't it? It's something that obviously we need to work on, but we are a bit patched up as well. So credit where it's due. It's a good goal for them.
It was, absolutely. Thank you, Benjamin. I'll stay with you because at half time it was Forest 1, Spurs 0. So, Benjamin, what were your thoughts on that first half? Some say we created quite a few chances and maybe unlucky to go into the break 1-0 down.
Yeah, I mean, another day, Johnson would have had a couple, wouldn't he? Like, was it first half Son's free kick that was close? Was that first half?
I think it was at the end of the first half or the second.
Yeah, another day that
was
gone
the
in.
First half, I think.
Yeah, another day that would have gone in. We could have easily had 3 goals. Do you know what I mean? So it's just when you get that rub of the green, and we're not really getting that at the moment. And then they just went up the other end, and that was all she wrote, weren't it? But you never know with us. Like you never know. The second half is where it all happens usually, isn't it? Like you never know. Just when you think we're out of the game, sometimes we come back into it. So you never really know. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know what's going on. So you never know what to expect, do you?
To me, Harry, I thought we played better in the first half than the second, and that's where we did have those 2 great chances for Johnson, and then obviously Sonny's free kick. But throughout the game, I thought the pace on our passing was so ponderous. It was so slow, and it was, if there's anything that Postecoglou did up here at Celtic was that everything was quick. Even throw-ins were. They didn't dally on a throw-in. They made sure. They said, his adage was, "We rest when the final whistle goes." You've got to keep going, keep going. Now, whether because of extra time that's because of VAR and things like that, you never see a 90-minute game anymore, do you? I mean, look at some of the games last season, 98 minutes to score the winner against Sheffield United and things like this, ridiculous. But previously, it was always regimented. 60 minutes he'd have a change, or 75 minutes there'd be changes. But you're not seeing that this year, and it's been made more difficult for him because every time every time he goes to see the doctor says, "No, there's one less now. There's one less now. He's not coming back." And it's like, my God, he's been asked to perform miracles with a squad which has got up to 10 missing first teamers, and as Joesph says, I mean, that figure for your doggy really shocks me. 94% of all games. No wonder the kids, he's running on empty.
Yeah, absolutely. I didn't know that, but I do really appreciate that stat, Joesph, because that's an awful lot of games. As you said, that's just not Premier League. That's all competitions, and that just for me represents that we haven't got those players to be able to, or have that rubber green, which maybe Benjamin speaks about, I think both, to be able to rest and also rotate. So it's really interesting. So thank you all for that. But Joesph, I'll ask you on your thoughts on that first half. Obviously, we did go into it behind, and we know obviously it did stay that way. But I thought, we done okay in that first half, like the guys have said. Do you feel that way as well, or do you think that we didn't do enough?
Yeah, I mean, it was a competitive game. I can't really sit here and say anything more than that, to be honest. I mean, we've seen some games recently where it feels like we've been outclassed. Obviously, Liverpool, we were completely outclassed. This game felt competitive. Nottingham Forest playing well. We turned up there and we gave them a good game. But at the end of the day, we didn't score a goal. They got that good chance from Alanga. It was a good finish. And I don't know, maybe we didn't do enough. But that first half, we did need a goal. Unfortunate for Brennan. I thought he was trying hard. Second half we'll get on to. I really was disappointed in him. I think there was moments, and there was potential chances where we could have got a goal, but probably not enough. Probably not enough for us to sit here and go we were hard done by. But I mean, again, Forest are a good side. It was always going to be a tough game, I think kind of just it's a shame that we went in 1-0 down. But that's what you always, we're always going to afford chances. What we know in the Ange Postecoglou system, we know that we're going to afford chances for the other team. We know they're going to have opportunities to score. And it's about us taking our chances. And unfortunately, we didn't do that.
Absolutely. Yeah, we didn't. In the end of the day, it was a tight game, and we couldn't do enough for that possession, that 70% possession, as you say, and didn't quite create enough. And when we did, couldn't take it. It's just like a cycle. Quite frustrating. In the 64th minute, Bentancur come off. Sean, you did mention it, so I'll come to you first. What were your thoughts of his performance? First one back from his ban. What do you make of him?
I mean, I'm a big fan of Bentancur. He's such a classy act, and he can be the difference in games. The way that he's sort of quite press resistant, and he's able to link. But what you saw on the Forest game was the fact that you lose your rhythm when you don't play games. And he's only played the 2 European games in the last 2 months, and it was quite clear that he wasn't at the races, as they say, it was no surprise that he was taken off to me, and much as it breaks my heart because I do love him, as I say, but he was, you keep saying, there's a very fine line. There's been overplayed, as we've already remarked, but there's also, if you're being underplayed and you lose match rhythm, you lose that ability to adapt to conditions. His passing wasn't as crisp as I've seen it in the past. And of course, he was one of the 3 that were caught upfield when Forest went and scored their goal. It was disappointing. I mean, I'm sure he probably feels it as much as anyone else. But it's again, it goes to show when you're it's a game of fine margins, isn't it? And some of those margins aren't just on the field; they're in the FA's tribunals as much as anything else, So I'm worried that we've got players who are on close to a ban, and certain players who talk themselves into the book on Boxing Day need to have a good look at themselves. a good
Absolutely.
look at themselves. I mean, our disciplinary record is absolutely shocking. The number of yellow cards we've picked up for arguing with the ref is and it's coming back to bite us because we're going to lose a player on top of all the injury lists, and we have, and
Yeah,
we're
exactly.
gonna, and we have lost a player now for this game coming up.
Yeah, we'll get to Jed Spence send it off, but it was quite silly, I think, on reflection. But you're right with disciplinary, and you go back to last season even. Yeah, I look at that Basuma against Luton on another day. You don't hold on to that, and it gives that momentum to a team that very rarely win. And there's just times like that. It's just really frustrating. But especially this season when you've got that injury crisis, the players you've got, you expect them to be sensible. I mean, I think a lot of them are going out there and putting out a really good shift. And I highlight the likes of Archie Gray when I talk about this, playing out of position, 18 years old, really stepping up to the plate and taking that responsibility in a difficult time. But there are some still that sadly don't step up to the table, and senior players that don't perform consistently. And I look at the likes of Maddison and go, you're capable. You've got the real quality. We need you every week. You can't just decide when you're going to turn up when you feel like it. We need you when we've got players out. But we will stick on topic with Bentancur. Joesph, how do you think that he played in this game? Are you with Sean in terms you didn't think he was great, but overall he's a real class act and it's great to have him back?
Yeah, definitely. I think he's probably our most accomplished centre midfielder right now in the club. Him, Basuma, Papasar. He's the one that you really rely on and trust. He's got a bit more composure on the ball. He's the person you kind of trust when he has the ball to kind of calm things down. I wanted to ask Sean about the disciplinary, suggestions. I wanted to see what you thought of this. Do you think it's a leadership problem? Do you think it's something where we might not have? Because obviously, Son is kind of a captain who leads by example. Then again, he loves Simone as well. But do you think it's more of a leadership issue where players aren't kind of getting settled down by a captain, someone on the pitch who's kind of going to calm them? I mean, obviously, I know Romero's who's a part of that kind of leadership team. He's probably not the best example of it because he seems to like a rash challenge here and there. Although, to be fair, throughout the game, he does always look quite calm, and then he just suddenly sees red for a second. But do you think it's a leadership issue? I know it's kind of off topic, discussing Bentancur, but I don't know. I kind of, the more I've looked at it this season, I'm not happy with our leadership team. I'm not happy. I don't feel like we have a captain, a true captain, like other teams do.
Yeah, I must admit, that was when Ange brought in the leadership team. That really struck me as odd, because I thought you just need a captain. I mean, I don't want to age. I am going to age myself. I've been going to Spurs since 1968, boys. It's a long, long haul, and I never remember a leadership team. You had a captain and maybe a vice captain, but you never had a leadership team. And I wonder whether Ange was trying to get. He's trying to bring different sections of the squad together. So you've got Romero for like the Spanish, Italian-speaking elements of the squad. You've got Maddison, who's sort of like this, who was an England international when he arrived at our place, and then you had Sonny was just like an international figurehead, and the longest, him and Davis, the longest serving players left, and I just think we just need a captain, and to me, the person who stepped up and is acting as the captain is Kulusevski. 100%. I think he's been absolutely, he demands the best of himself. He demands the best of the players around him. He steps up in his media. And I just feel it's something that needs to go back to the drawing board. I do feel Romero is hampered by the fact that he's not confident in English. I mean, I think he can make himself understood, but it's not. I just feel that there's people hide behind the leadership group rather than take responsibility. And I wonder whether I would be saying, let's scrap that and let's just make Kulu the captain.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't sound great, but I'm not going to lie. One captain I really admire is Ødegaard for Arsenal. I think he is a really, really good captain for Arsenal in terms of he gets every player up for it whenever they're kind of in the game. He also calms them down when he needs to as well. I see him as like a real, he wants to be at the centre of it and he wants to kind of get his teammates around him. And I don't see that with Son. Son is stuck on that left side. And I don't know, when things aren't going well, at the moment, I don't see him. He doesn't get a grip of the game and go, I'm going to bring you guys through this and we're going to get through it and work through it together. I just don't see that. And that's why I don't know if he is the right captain for us, unfortunately. But yeah, I mean, hopefully, I think Kulusevski, you're right. I think he's probably the best option as a captain. I think in the future, I think Archie Gray might end up growing into that role if he obviously stays with Spurs. I think if he develops his career here and he becomes kind of a vocal point of our squad, I think he could be a great captain for us. But yeah, sorry, Harry. Back onto Bentancur. I think it wasn't his best game in a Spurs shirt. Obviously, he's coming back from missing. He hasn't had consistent football. Obviously, playing Europe every now and then, and even then, every time he plays, he never plays a full 90, does he? He always kind of comes off. So it wasn't his best performance, but I'm still happy to have him back. I mean, Basum has always been very inconsistent for us. Pape Sarr, I think he's been really good for us this season, but again, sometimes in our midfield, we need a calm presence, and I feel like he's probably one of the only players that I can really say has that for Tottenham at the moment. I think when he's on the ball, you trust him to kind of sometimes, if he needs to slow the game down, pass it out, find his man. You're right, Sean. I think sometimes maybe the pace of the game is a bit too slow from him. Maybe he needs to kind of speed it up. But then there's been times where I've seen him do that too. So, I'm happy to have him back. But yeah, maybe not his best performance against Forest.
No, definitely. And I agree with this in terms of going back to the leadership thing from Tom, who says Archie Gray has been outstanding, especially considering what's being asked of him. I agree, he's definitely future captain material. That's from Tom again in the chat. I would like to welcome onto the podcast, though, Toby. How are you doing, mate?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. Thanks for having me on, man. Apologies, I know we've been trying to get this going for a while. I've been available, but I'm available now, so that's what that matters. So
thank you. No, thank you very much for coming on. I'll stick with you if that's okay, because we're discussing the whole leadership, I suppose, problems at the club, the whole leadership team. So how do you view it? Do you feel like we lack leadership at the moment?
Yeah, I do. I do, and I think Son gets a lot of unnecessary grief personally when it comes to this whole facet of leadership per se, because I do think he stepped into that captain role adequately, but Son is also not someone who's going to be barking orders at people on the football pitch consistently. He will help people, and he has a more probably emotionally intelligent way of being a leader. But I do think Son can't do it by himself. I think we have lacked, and this isn't just an issue specific to this squad, but I do think that there's been a perennial leadership problem with the squad over the last couple of years, and we've really lacked people that can balance the right mentality in terms of what they need to say to people at the right time on a football pitch versus the quality that they're actually offering on a football pitch. We've had leaders who are detrimental to our team on the pitch, but speak well of the team off the pitch. I just think Spurs need to find the balance, and I think we need to start. It's difficult, right? Because we lack the characters that can really sort of wrestle control back in our favor. So like cases like Brighton, like we lack the type of players who can actually try and corral the team together and maybe even have a word with the manager and try and like stop the team from capitulating like they have done. And I think we've seen that pattern over and over again the last couple of seasons. I think, we just need stronger personalities. There's too many people that go hiding, that go a bit soft when the going gets tough. Sorry. And I think we need to try and get some of those personalities who are willing to stand up. I obviously caught on the early parts of the conversation, and someone mentioned Kulusevski. I think Kulusevski is a good example of what it takes to be a leader for this team, because Kulusevski, I know he's had his consistency issues in the past, but nobody can question his work rate, nobody can question his mindset, and nobody can question how present he is being this season, even in the midst of adversity as well. So he's someone who's showing signs that he could be someone who can lead, or be one of the leaders of this team in the years to come. But we need more. It can't just be two men doing it. I think the defense is a big problem as well, because Vicario tries to be vocal, but he's just the goalkeeper, right? We need a leader in that back line, and I don't think we have one. I think Van de Ven is a very good centre back. I think Romero. I think our centre backs are on their day, they're quality centre backs, but I feel like they're both prone to making some mistakes. Romero more than Van de Ven, and they get in their heads, and they're meant to be the calming presence, right? Pedro Porro is erratic. We know he's a good player, but he's erratic. Sometimes he needs someone to tell him, calm down, slow the game down. You don't need to look for the glory pass all the time. Same with Destiny. You don't need to try and play out of trouble here. Just clear your lines. Like, we don't have a leader in the back line, and that's a problem. So, as I said, it's more than a two-man job, and it's definitely something the club need to look at when they're identifying new talent to join in the months and years to come.
Yeah, definitely.
I remember.
No, thank you very much. Yeah, go on.
I remember I got this quote from Kulusevski, and I think it really sums up like what we're missing and what we're missing from a leadership point of view. He said, everyone in this club has to do everything they can to win. The best players give their life for this, blood, sweat and tears. And if you don't give it, don't expect success. And it's like, that's the kind of person. I mean, he, obviously words are one thing. You need to show it on the pitch, but he is showing it on the pitch for us this year. He's showing how much he cares. He's the one driving us towards results. Every time he's the hardest worker. He's the one who runs the most distance. He's the guy that you see that wants it more than anyone else. I think right now he proves that he could easily be the captain for us. And again, Son, sometimes, as much as I appreciate, again, he leads by example. He's that kind of player. He's a great professional. He's someone that I think a lot of players can go to when they need him. And it's important to have that. It's just sometimes in those games when we need that spark and when things aren't maybe going the right way, he's not really the guy to kind of be like, all right, I'm going to take you guys and you're going to come with me and we're going to get through this. We need someone who wants to do that. And I feel like Kulusevski is the perfect player for that. I think he's the person going, I want everyone to come with me and we're going to battle our way through this game. We don't see that enough from other players. Yeah.
Spurs need more personalities to help us suffer well. We don't suffer well, right? When we're suffering, we suffer poorly, and it typically ends in disaster. And to your point, Son, I don't consider as a character who is always vocal in those moments. And he probably needs some help. Like, as I said, there's multiple ways to skin a cat. Like, there are different ways in which you can be a leader. And I think in those moments, you need more than Son. You absolutely need more than Son.
It's interesting, Harry, that the I can't remember who made the thing about Bissouma's performance at Luton. And
it was me.
Yeah. Well, it was that was probably the time when I first saw Kulusevski step up, because without Kulusevski, we don't win that game at Luton last year. He was absolutely immense, and he retained the ball upfield when we were under pressure, and he played his part in getting us to that winning that corner, which we scored Van der Ven scored with the Brom. So it's interesting how we've seen. People often say, well, what players has Ange developed? Kulusevski is an even better player. He was a good player before, but he's an even better player now because the shackles been taken off of him. I don't think he's not a natural winger because he doesn't have the 1v1 pace, but he does have trickery and he does have intelligence. He just has football intelligence, and you can see that in some of the sort of intricate stuff he does around the edge of the box. I remember that Solanke goal against Villa, which was on him. So it's something to certainly be considered. As I say, I mean, I love Ange to death. You know, I'm obviously I'm going to die on Mount Postecoglou, I think. But no, it's one decision that, you know, this leadership group. I don't think it's been a successful idea.
No, I don't think it's worked either. I'm with you on that one. Benjamin, I'm going to bring you into conversation here, and I want to ask you in particular about Son, who's been mentioned here, and maybe just move away a little bit from the leadership thing, because he looks, running to the ground, doesn't he? I think at the moment, and he just doesn't seem to be able to play 2 games a week, does he?
Well, like just briefly on the leadership thing, I think maybe it might sound a bit harsh, but maybe like he probably got the captaincy on service. To be fair, he's been with us a long time, hasn't he? Like, I don't think he was the perfect choice. Got to remember, like you're saying about he's getting tired and stuff. In football terms, he's probably at the twilight of his career, isn't he? Like, he's probably I think we've had his best days, I would say. I'm not saying he's finished, because every now and again he comes up with an absolute, like he will just go and score an absolute worldie, wouldn't he? And he'd have a great performance. I remember saying earlier in the season, we need to think about replacing him, and then he goes and has a great game and scores a couple of goals. So you can't count him out, but I think we have got to remember that he's not the Son that we had previously, in my opinion.
I think with the Son situation, I think it's pretty clear. It's pretty clear what's happening to Son, and I think most Spurs fans have seen this 3 years, 4 years down the line. Even when he was firing goals for Conte or Jose, the question that for me, I won't speak for everyone else here, but my thing is we're too dependent on Kane and Son. If Kane and Son go down, who's stepping up for Tottenham? Now that conversation has shifted somewhat, because back then it was we're rinsing these guys, no one else can step up. But as the years have gone by, it's clear we've rinsed Son. We need someone else to basically carry the baton. When he's not firing, who's going to do it for us? Now we've got to a point where it's clear. It's not a case of him not firing. It's a case of him no longer being at the level physically that he was 3 or 4 years ago to be able to churn out the performances that he was churning out for Tottenham. Yet we're still using him the same way we did 3-4 years ago. In fact, we're even asking more of him, right? We're asking more of him. Ange Postecoglou plays this guy like some 22-year-old touchline winger. Yeah, you stay wide, you receive the ball wide, and you go and run at your man 1v1. When has Son ever been amazing at that? Even in his prime, that wasn't his MO. His prime is I'm making my outside in runs, I'm getting in behind the defense, I'm scoring 15, 20 plus goals. Like his MO has never been, let me isolate a player 1v1 and just cook him all game long. It's not to say that he hasn't done that in the past, that he hasn't done that on occasion. It's that's not his speciality, especially at this stage of his career, and especially with the way we play football as well. Son has been someone who's been good at pressing over the last couple of years, but we're playing this guy week in, week out. We're playing 3 games a week most weeks, and he's starting most of these games at a stage of his career where his physical powers aren't what they used to be. And we're wondering, we're meant to be surprised that he's dropping off a cliff in terms of form. Like, I think we need to acknowledge Son for what he is now. Son should not be a starter for Tottenham. He shouldn't be. We saw that again very painfully at the end of last season, even when he was scoring goals, and we saw it the year before. He shouldn't be a starter for Tottenham. Son should be a rotation piece player that should come in to complement some results here or there, or you bring him on to try and change a game in your favor, or you just manage his minutes. If you're going to play Sunday, maybe you don't play Thursday, maybe you don't play the next Sunday, or you come in as a sub the next Sunday, or then you start the following game. That's how we should be managing Son's minutes. Or if you are going to play him, try and manage the amount of work that he actually has to get through in that game. You look at the way in which Arne Slot is using Mo Salah. Now, I know Mo Salah is a better player than Son, but Son is a superb footballer in terms of what he does in the final third, right? Mo Salah's not having to track back as much as Son. Mo Salah's not having to cover as much ground as Son. He's not. If you look at his minutes, if you look at, I can't remember, there was a specific stat that BBC used, but there was something they used to try and compare the physical load on Salah in previous seasons to this season's in terms of like number of touches, distance covered, etc., etc. It's decreased this year because you know what? The manager said, I need you in the final third. You are not at the physical level that you were 2 or 3 years ago. I need you in the final third. You stay where you can be most influential. We're going to try to get the ball to you, and then you make the rest happen for yourself, right? There's nothing of the sort at Tottenham. There's no care for Son's physical well-being. There's no care for the tactics that we employ to actually get Son in the positions where he can hurt teams the most. There's none of these things. And then the third point is Son as an individual. I don't want to just put it all on the manager and the tactics, because Son as an individual, he's been poor this season. He's had some good games, but he has been poor. He needs to do better himself. Absolutely. He's been very, very poor by his standard. Poor final third execution in some games, poor finishing in some games, and just poor ball retention in some games, right? But all of these three things, they come together and they unfold into what we're seeing now. And I just feel like this could be avoided. If we did the proper business last summer, the summer before, we wouldn't be in this situation. If we had a coach who could acknowledge, okay, you know what? Listen, I know that we're in the midst of a crisis here, but you are literally like our best finisher. You're the one who almost certainly will make the right decision in comparison to a Solanke or Kulu or whoever in the final third. Let me try and do something to get the best out of you. We don't get any of these things. It's irresponsible by the club. It's irresponsible by the manager, and it's compounded by some playing poorly.
Yeah, definitely. I think you did some really good points there, Toby. So thank you. And ultimately, we need to be getting more out of Son, because I still think he's got something left to give. But I totally agree with you. I think his minutes have to be managed even more. I think they are being managed by club and country, even more by country. But there's more we can do. As I see him as an impact player off the bench. So thank you for raising those points. Before we move on from Son and move on to the game, Joesph, I'm going to ask you lastly. On Son, what do you make of the points that like Toby makes there? It's really interesting using that analogy in comparison to Salah at Liverpool, and it is true. If you think about it, he stays up top a lot, and I don't think was involved a lot in for example, their game against us. But when he looked dangerous, and he scored or got those assists. So is there something that we can do with Son? We make him do less and try and get more out of him by staying like up top.
I agree with everything Toby said. Everything. I think every part of it is right. I think there's a little bit of blame to be with the manager, with the club, and with Son himself. I think we've seen Son falling off slightly over the years. He hasn't matched after he was that joint top goal scorer. Since then, we've kind of seen that slow, almost decline from him, where his performances have maybe not been as good. But I think Toby's right in terms of what his quality is. Ange is maybe not using him in exactly the right way. What we're used to him always cutting inside. I remember the goal against Arsenal, cutting inside, whipping it top corner. That's what we've always known from Son. He was cutting inside and playing next to Kane and linking up with him. We don't see that anywhere near as much now with how Tottenham play. I mean, even now, he could be doing that a little bit with Solanke, and he's not. He's really not. He plays on that touchline, and that's where he is. He plays exactly the same as Johnson, but that isn't what his qualities are. So it really doesn't make much sense. I think Toby's right in the fact as well. He's towards. I know Benjamin said he's towards the twilight of his career now. We're not going to get the same output from him, and we do need the next player to kind of come in and be that starter for Tottenham. Whether that player's at the club currently now, we're not sure. I mean, Mikey Moore obviously looks promising, but it's probably too much to ask a 17-year-old to come in and just start right away. Wilson Odobert looked good when he first came in, but obviously the injury kind of derailed the season. I think we probably do need another winger. I think we do right now. But, is that going to come in? Or is Levy going to go spend that money? Probably not in January. And again, I still think right now they're kind of going, oh, we've got players in that position. We don't desperately need one, but we do. I think we do.
We do. I think, and sorry, that's because I wanted to let someone else speak, or one of you guys speak, but that was going to be my next point, right? Because the squad building for me, I think it's dependent on Daniel Levy putting his hands in his pockets and getting us another attacker that we so desperately need. But it's also dependent on us actually having a manager who's actually going to help us set up in a way that can actually benefit the players that we have coming through the ranks that we can see a future with. So like Odobert was signed in the summer. right? He can play left or he can play right. He can play central. Yeah. Odegaard should have been accompanied by an undisputed starter that can also play both flanks. If we had an option that could play both flanks, you know what we could do? We could play narrow. We could play narrow. We could play narrow, and then we could play one of Odegaard, Moore, or Son in the left inside space. We could play, or even Maddison there. You could have Maddison or Kulu central. You could then have the new player on the right or Kulusevski on the right. Like, there's so many ways you can sort of mix it, and I feel like it I don't want to say it's common sense, but it really is common sense. It's not that difficult. Like, the guy can't do what you need him to do. Go and bring someone else who can do what.
Do we miss out on Neto? Sorry to interrupt. Do you think we missed out on him? And with Chelsea grabbing him, obviously can play both sides. Obviously, mainly on the left.
I would have been against signing Neto because of his injury record. He played 10 games in the previous 2 seasons. And
I'm not. You know what it is with Neto. With Neto, I was, of course, understandably, I'm upset because we don't sign someone like Neto, but we're bringing in guys like Timo Werner into the club. I can completely understand, but I can completely understand why the club weren't willing to spend 54 million on Neto. This is a player who does get injured quite a lot, and where we look at the amount of football that we need from whoever comes into the attack, you're going to need to play a significant amount of minutes. I can understand the club not signing Neto. What I can't understand and what I can't forgive is signing Timo Werner 2 windows straight. What value is he adding? Like, what value is he adding to our team? He's adding no value whatsoever. And then you're bringing in a 19-year-old in Odegaard, who you know is not going to be the player that you need within the first season. Listen, we've been unfortunate with his injury, right? But even if he was fit, how much output, how much games of like high quality performances are we expecting from a 19-year-old who's only played 1 season in the top flight league, which was last year for Burnley? He's got the talent, but he needs years to grow. Same with Mikey Moore. He needs years to grow. And whilst these players are trying to find their feet, you need other guys who are going to actually carry the burden. And we don't have that. We don't have that additional attacker. Solanke's been a good addition. He has, but he needs to score more goals. Kulusevski's trying this season. Yeah. Maddison's put up numbers this season. Son, he's not been good this season, but he's got numbers. But we need more. We absolutely need more.
I think though, it goes to your point, Tobes, about the Son being overplayed. If you don't have a Odegaard to bring on after 60 minutes or 75 minutes and manage Son's minutes, you're going to get the Son that we're currently experiencing, which is a player who's receiving the ball with his back to goal too often, out wide, in a man marked, and not in his strongest position. I think Son, to me, I think someone made the point that he's more of a second striker, maybe a sort of second striker like Defoe or something, and that's why he thrived when he had Kane as the first striker. If you know what I mean. And I just think it's difficult because when you buy players to try and manage players' minutes and then they themselves get injured, it doesn't help the coaches. It doesn't help the coach in planning.
Agree. But then you have to ask yourself the question that, okay, Odegaard's been injured, but we signed 2 attackers this summer, and the only time the second attacker will start games of football is when there is a mass injury crisis, which begs the question, why did you bring this guy in? If you don't trust him wholeheartedly to actually be a rotation piece, not just play when everyone else is down. That's what you have to ask yourself. What was the benefit in bringing this guy into the summer, having known the level of quality that he provided in the couple months prior, which was nowhere near good enough? Why did you bring him in again? Why did you do that?
Yeah.
I think we always seem to be... Sorry, Harry.
That's right, go for it.
I think we always seem to be waiting for players to develop or players to come good. Do you know what I mean? It seems to be like 2008, after that Champions League final, we were crying, that team had run its cycle when we were crying out for a rebuild. And I don't think we've successfully rebuilt since then.
Definitely.
This is what happens when you sign 18, 17-year-olds. It's pretty much, other than Solanke, every signing we made in the summer was teenagers.
Yeah.
We're now,
Exactly.
again, they're probably going to have the excuse of, oh, we got Min Hyang Yuk, the young Korean guy coming in. How can you expect him to come in and make an impact when he's 17 playing, or 18, 19 playing from the K-League, coming now to the Premier League? He's not going to make an impact. We need a winger. We do need one. And again, inconsistent performances from the starters has been also an issue. Like Brennan Johnson, at points he looks great, at points he looks average. Son, again, sometimes he looks all right, sometimes he hasn't performed. So we've got that issue with squad depth. And again, you're right, like Timo Werner is not trusted at all at the club. He should never have been brought back in. I think everyone was kind of just sitting there going, why did we get him again? Like, he wasn't great when we first got him in. And now you've just gone, oh, it's because it's a cheap option. Let's bring him back in to fill up the squad, to fill up the squad. And it's like, but he's never going to be good enough for Tottenham. So why are you doing it?
Being January, go on,
Harry.
sorry.
I was just going to say, well, it isn't a cheap option, is it? £165,000 a week. Yeah, I mean that's I mean, you could say that his GA in that second half of last season, allowed him to get away with murder. But he's clearly a broken player. I mean, that performance at Rangers, which I'm still scratching my eyes out, because it was just down the road from where I live. It's horrible.
His GA wasn't even good last year. He scored like 2 goals. He scored like 2 goals in like.
No, but he created a lot of goals. To be honest,
he got a few assists.
He got like 3 assists, maybe 4 assists.
Caused some own goals as well. So
one decent crossing 10. The guys
numbers paper over the cracks. Like you could say the same about Brennan Johnson this season. I'll be honest, I haven't been impressed with him really much.
He's not good enough.
But people will sit there and go, yeah, but he scored the most goals this season. He's there to, he has been in the right position to put the ball in the net, but it's not like he's really created.
But Joesph, does it matter how you're playing if you're getting those goals and assists, which change those games?
Harry, it matters. It absolutely matters because his ability to get those goals and assists is predicated on other players engineering a certain situation where he can run on to the end of things and scores. When we're up against deep block defenses, which is probably 60% of games we play, and we need our winger to actually play like a winger, not just run on to the ends of things. Like, you're receiving the ball out wide. What can you do in that position to create a dangerous situation for Tottenham? He's found wanting. He's not good enough for Tottenham. I've been saying this before he signed. He's not good enough. He's not good enough.
No,
if I had it my way, I would sell Brennan Johnson in the summer. I would. Right, but I know the club aren't going to do it, right? So at the very least, bring us someone else who can actually put this guy permanently as a rotation option. Because if he comes off the bench and gets us those goals, that's useful. Those goals have been useful for Tottenham, right? They've been useful for Tottenham, but we have eyes. We're watching these games. There are games where he's literally doing nothing in the game of football to impact the result, but he pops up with a goal, and everyone's like, "Oh my God, see, this is the value in having." No. He's a winger. In this system, he's a winger. He's not an inside forward. He's another one who's actually, I think, the manager's probably misusing, right? He needs to be played closer to goal because that's his strong point. When he receives the ball inside the box, he can let off shots at goal. He can make his runs in behind. Cool. But unfortunately, he's played as a winger. And as a winger, he is absolutely poor for Tottenham. He's poor. Sorry, he is poor.
No, he's been there to put the ball in the net, and that's great and all, but again, when we've needed someone to run past the defender and create a chance for Tottenham, he hasn't been there to do it. He's never been there to do it. We have never seen all of his goals come from pretty much usually within the 6-yard box where a ball's played across to him and he's there at the back post. That's all fine and good, but honestly, any player, if they're trained to do that, can do that for Tottenham. We need somebody who's going to make an impact. I was looking at different transfers Tottenham could look at. I don't know if people know about Johan Bakayoko from PSV. He's like a one.
I know him.
He's a one-on-one winger. He's been a bit inconsistent at points, but he's somebody who thrives off of playing against his fullback. And I haven't seen that from Johnson. Every time Johnson comes up against a fullback, I feel like the fullback's going to win.
Yeah, that's one thing I think he needs to do more. And he has that confidence to take on his man.
I know the fullback's going to win because he doesn't do it. Yeah. He's not aggressive. He doesn't do it. And Johan Bakayoko, he's a decent shot because he's whenever I've watched him in European competitions, he looks lively. Like he looks someone who can cause defenders problems. But honestly, and this is my Premier League bias coming in, I'm burnt. I'm scarred. I'm scarred by signing players from the Eredivisie.
Or like
Vincent Janssen,
Bergwijn and
Steven Bergwijn. I'm scarred. And I would much rather see him go to another club and see if he's the real deal. And then, okay,
Yeah.
cool. If he's the real deal, then Tottenham pay for him.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I can't trust that league as far as I can throw him. Sorry.
No,
I just
fair
can't.
enough. That's
No,
fair
I
enough.
understand that. We'll
I
move
think- I
on
think-
back to...
Oh,
Yeah,
sorry.
go on, Sean.
I was going to say, just to go right back to a point Benji was making about the club has stood still since 2019. We've chopped and changed and chopped, and what we finished up with is a mismatch of a squad, managers who don't suit the squad they inherit. They never get the players that they want, and we're now in a position where effectively I feel that since Ange's appointment, we're almost back at November 2019 when Pochettino was finally relieved of the job, and that's a sad thing to say. I've been, as I said before, I've been going to White Hart Lane since 1968. And I've seen some great players, some great leaders, all the things that we've talked about. But we've, the lack of direction, and it's in our squad is terrible, absolutely terrible.
Yeah, 100%. Moving back to the Forest game itself, 87th minute, Dragusin come off injured. I mean, Benjamin, would you say it's another bad day for Dragusin? Oh, you're on mute.
Well,
Benjamin, if you can unmute yourself.
Talking to myself.
No worries.
the life of a Tottenham fan.
Yeah, I mean, jury's out for me with him at the minute. I don't know with him. Like, he looked good. He had that good game at the Euros, didn't he? And I thought, we've got a player here. Like, he's going to come back. But he's very rash, isn't he? He makes a lot of mistakes. His discipline's a bit shot, isn't it? But we don't need another defender out, regardless of who it is.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
I thought Dragusin did a good job of keeping Wood quiet, given that Wood has been scoring goals for Forest.
He does go quiet though, I think, a lot. Even when he does score, he seems to need that moment or two. But yeah, he didn't get that moment for sure. So I think you can give credit maybe to the back line for that.
But he's asked to do something which he clearly can't do. He's nowhere near the quality of Romero in long balls or passes out of defence. He just doesn't do it. He just hasn't got it. It's not in his armory.
I do think
fair
Dragusin is prone to. I think he's a bit unfortunate the way that we play. I think if you put Dragusin in that Nottingham Forest back line, he'd look a lot more comfortable, and people would start looking at him like he's a great player. I think
he needs a defensive system. I think that's what I think with him. No nonsense defender, isn't he? He's not a ball playing centre back.
Definitely right there, Harry. I think the way that I've looked at it, I think if we even played a back three where you had Van de Ven and Romero and Dragusin there as well, he'd look so much more comfortable because he's got cover. But the point is, recently he's been asked to go next to Archie Gray, who again, he has played well, but he's not a centre-back. You're asking him to be the senior partnership between him and Archie Gray. Dragusin's 22 years old. It's not like he's exactly a really, really experienced defender. And you're asking him to be, the player to be able to run back and almost try and do, cover what Van de Ven does and Romero does. He's not really going to be that. I think he's a bit unfortunate the way that we play. But I think if you put him in many other teams in the Premier League, if he was to play, people would look at him as a solid defender. I just think he's kind of hung out to dry a little bit from how we play.
Joesph, what do you make of him? Because I thought he was, targeted by Forest. So what do you make of that? Rather than maybe targeting Archie Gray, an 18-year-old, does that say a lot about Dragusin and maybe him struggling at the moment? They've gone for him and not Gray in an unnatural position, and obviously at a very young age when they target
I think
him.
they probably noticed that he struggles to play on the back foot. I think Dragusin, he likes the ball being in front of him. And again, with how we play, we allow teams to get in behind us, especially down the flanks. So Dragutin's always having to sprint back and try and, you know, cut out the ball from an early cross or different ways. Again, he suits where, again, let's say the ball was coming into Chris Wood, he's there to, you know, kind of box him out and try and stop him from getting past him. But again, the way that Spurs play, our defenders are always on the back foot, having to try and chase back, and it doesn't suit his attributes. So I think that's where Dragutin struggles, and I think that's probably what they've tried to target. They've tried to target where he's got to try and be on the back foot and run back and try and intercept the ball or make a challenge. And yeah, it's not his areas of expertise as a defender.
No, it certainly isn't. Sean, I mean, no centre-backs now available as we speak. I mean, when it rains, it pours, doesn't it, for Spurs and, you know, an injury point of view?
Do you know what, Harry? If you turn up early enough with your boots, you might get a game yourself, the way it's going in a minute.
What do you reckon, right side or left side?
I don't know. I think I see you as a right-sided centre-back, but anyway, yeah.
Right-sided, okay.
It's hard. I mean, you know, that was just like the sort of the straw that broke the camel's back, isn't it? I mean, I understand from one of the journalists that follows Spurs that in training they've been playing with Basuma at centre-back, so God alone knows what's going to happen tomorrow, because and I know there's a big call for Dorrington, but Dorrington went through the same injury that Udogie went through at the back end of last season.
Yeah.
He missed the end of the under-21 season, and you know, from all accounts, his injury was actually worse than Udogie. So, I mean. As I say, I mean, if we could bring back the spirit of, well, in my case, Mike England or Richard Gough or someone like that, it would be great. But we just haven't got centre backs, and I really fear for us tomorrow in the game. It's going to be very, very difficult indeed. I mean, it might well be a case of us having to play a mid block with a team compiled completely of midfielders at this stage. It's just madness. But
Ange won't do that though.
No, of course he won't. No,
we can sit here and say, "Oh, you probably should set up like this," but yeah, that's not going to happen. He's going to play exactly the same way. Do you think it speaks volumes that again he's not really trusting in Dorrington? I mean, don't get me wrong. I appreciate we've got a lot of senior players out, and maybe you want to keep some kind of seniority in the team. But I've never seen Basuma play as a centre back, never. No. And they're now going, you know, we're going to use you as a centre back rather than Alfie Dorrington, who is a natural centre back.
Yeah, I mean, there's a massive step up from under-21 to Premier League, and although he came on against Southampton, I didn't think he looked a bit overawed, to be honest. And that was in a game that we were leading 5-0 at the time. You know, we're coming up against a team who've got a new manager, who've won 2 games on the trot, and are hungry for points. In fact, are in a relegation battle and are clawing their way out of that bottom 3. I don't know whether
we'll get on
sometimes. I know it's so. I mean, I don't see Dorrington day in and day out. The coaching staff obviously do, and they in the end, you have to say they've got the certificate, they've got the experience, they know when to play the player. But you know, eventually it might just come down to the point where we've got to play him because that's all we've got.
Yeah,
you know. I was lucky enough to go and see Ashley Phillips on loan at Plymouth last season. And I thought he was incredible. In fact, Plymouth took him off. It was a game against Millwall back end of last season. They took him off, and Millwall scored the winner when they took him off. Probably exactly the same position where he was defending. And I think, if we can recall him, I would be recalling him in January because we're obviously not going to get these central defenders. I don't think Romero and Van der Ven are coming back all that soon in January. I really don't.
I think we'll go out and sign one. If we don't recall someone, we'll go out and sign one.
We'll see. Time will tell.
Yeah.
I think it's just a shame that we've got all these youngsters on the bench and none of them are really... We haven't seen any of them, have we? Like some of these youngsters that from our youth academy. Again, if they're trusted to be on the bench, should they not be trusted to, or are they just there to make up numbers? Because none of them are coming on really on the pitch. Again, other than that Southampton game, that's the only time they come on. Are they just not trusted enough yet? Are they just there to make up numbers? I don't know. I don't know if it's just an indictment into what our youth academy has been for the last, couple of years. I mean, we haven't seen as many players come through it recently. I don't know. Maybe it's something different. Maybe he just wants senior players on the pitch, but I don't know.
It's a needs-must situation, though, right? And this is something that this manager doesn't understand. I really like Ange, I really do, but I'm just so disillusioned with him as a coach because I feel like the things that made him so good at the start was that he was making decisions that were logical, common sense decisions that most people would take. And I understand Archie Gray's got more years of experience. Archie Gray's played in a very physically demanding league in the Championship, very fast pace. I understand Archie Gray's got the ball qualities to play out from the back, but we were bleeding in the midfield for the last couple of weeks. Every other club who have gone through some sort of injury crisis, they've played their youth centre-backs. Man City, the champions, are playing Simpson Poussey at centre-back, right? Man United, they put in Kwambala at centre-back, and that's not the first time they've done that. Arsenal are playing Miles Lewis-Skelly at left-back. This is a central midfielder. There are clubs bigger than Tottenham. Liverpool putting Conor Bradley, Jurgen Klopp putting Conor Bradley at right back last season, right? Kwanzaa at centre back last season. I understand that he's hesitant to do it, and it may be a sink or swim moment, but it's a needs-must situation, right? What happens, God forbid, what happens if Archie Gray plays at centre back, gets bullied or gets injured, and now we've not got a centre back option, but we've also not got an extra midfield option? Do we not feel like
Tobes, take it from me. Give me my experience. This grey hair didn't come from not watching Spurs. Our crowd are so critical that they can kill our players. Whereas at Liverpool and Manchester United, their mentality is so much more supportive to players that come through their academy. How many players have we killed who came through our academy?
But respectfully,
Winks go back all the way back to someone like John Pratt, who I remember from the early 70s. Our crowd have killed a number of our young players, and I you know what? I just don't have faith in them. I hate to say that, but our fans are as much responsible for the fact that we don't have that mentality you're asking for as any coach that we've had.
Our fans, listen, our fans are toxic, right? But I would like to think that we do have some rational and logical thinking football fans who can acknowledge that 18 or 19-year-old who's never played Premier League football, who's only just come back a long injury layoff, right? Stepping in to a system that is flawed from a tactical perspective, will be given some allowances. If he sinks, he sinks. I don't think that's going to be a write-off for him per se. But what I can see is something going wrong if we line up against Wolves with Bissouma and Archie Gray as our centre-backs. I can see that being like, why would we play two? Why would we add additional minutes to players that we need in the midfield when we have centre backs that we can try and promote and just try and get through the game? Let's see. Maybe try and, as a manager, try and play a way that can actually protect the player that you're bringing into the team. Maybe try that.
Yeah. But I think even if you're not going to give youth a chance, I think you put Regular at left back. You shift a Doggy over. You put Regular on there. I think they're even better options, as you say, than putting Bissouma in particular in that position. And I agree with you, Sean, in terms of the fan base and definitely putting young players down. That we've seen it even, like, as you say, recently with Winks, Skip, etc. We've seen it so many times, even not just with young players, but also including those young players. But I think when players going to get an opportunity if they're not during.
I'll add Tommy Carroll to that list, by the way.
Yeah, no, that'd be another one. But when a player's going to get an opportunity if they're not in an injury crisis, I look at Reguilon, like, surely he's there just for the numbers. He's not getting a chance now when Davies is out and now Spencer's out. When other is he going to get that opportunity?
again, it boils down to poor planning. And listen, people say we've had a poor injury crisis. We've had 4 centre backs missing. This, that, and the third. Well, you know how the manager plays. You know how many injuries we had last year. You know the fact that Romero gets injured every season. You know the fact
it goes back to the window.
Gets hamstring injuries. So, it's pathetic, really. I'm hoping that Dragusin can play. I'm really hoping Dragusin can play. And I caught the end of what you were discussing earlier, lads. Before I jumped off on him being an awkward fit for this system, I 1000% agree, and that it's for that reason that I would probably look to move him on in the summer, because he just can't play the way that Ange Postecoglou needs if we're going to keep him for the long term, or if we're thinking of keeping Ange, for the long term. So he needs to be moved on, but we also need to play a different way, or use Dragusin a different way if he's going to play for us now, because he's not the guy you want receiving the ball and trying to play out. Like, it's easy for the opposition because they know they're going to get that ball straight back, or they're going to press him and he's going to give the ball right to them in our own half.
Yeah, absolutely. 94th minute, Jed Spence was sent off. I mean, Benjamin, that summed up our day, didn't it, really?
Yeah, it did. Do you know, I only saw that. I didn't see a replay of the tackle. I only saw the tackle. What was it like? Was it worthy of a red?
It was a yellow card
from one angle.
It's a yellow card.
Yeah, it was a yellow card.
Yeah. I'm more annoyed with his first yellow, where he could kick the ball away. That for me is an unnecessary yellow card, and gets sent off in the end. But,
I mean, like someone was saying earlier, it's all about the temperament, isn't it? And we need to curb that really. This goes with discipline and the temperament. Like, you too often lose our heads, and we need to work on that massively.
Discipline, absolutely, 100% agree with that. Joesph, what did you make of the red card? I mean, you say there, yellow card tackle for the second one. What do you make of the first one, again, kicking the ball away? Does that frustrate you? And come back to the whole thing about discipline. Yeah,
I mean, it's just needless, isn't it? I mean, we're seeing it a lot more. We're seeing referees like kind of pin down on it more this season. We're seeing, obviously it's happened in other games to other players. So yeah, you're going to get a yellow card for it now. It's just very pointless. I can understand maybe at the end of the game, like let's say, a team's, kind of pushing on us and we want to try and slow the game down. Maybe you can take a yellow card in that position. But when Spence did it was just pointless. So yeah, I mean, it was definitely a second yellow. It was a red card. It's a shame because I didn't think he played too badly. I thought he actually was all right against Forest. And he's been good since he's come in. It kind of begs the question, why has Ange not really played him all season and suddenly now kind of got him into the team whilst we've needed him, and he's playing well. So yeah, it's a shame. It kind of put a damper on his performance. But yeah, it's again another suspension now for the next game, so he won't play against Wolves. Yeah, I mean, it's what it is. It kind of summed up against the game. Like, it was just kind of like a nearly there. It was an okay performance. We were going toe to toe with Forest, but again, I think that red card just kind of summed up us kind of just like almost just not getting there, almost getting there, and just not being able to get there.
Yeah, absolutely. It ended full time. Forest 1, Spurs 0. So I'm going to throw some stats out there now. 1 win in our last 6 Premier League games, and that's 4 losses now in our last 5 Premier League games. First loss on Boxing Day since 2003. 9th loss of the season. Only Ipswich, Wolves and Southampton have lost more. We're 11 points now behind Nottingham Forest, who are in 3rd place. 22 losses from the last 42, and we've lost 14 of the last 25. Got a 37% win rate in 14 months. That one surprised me the most.
They're the stats that matter. People were talking about stats earlier. They're the stats that matter.
Facts.
Absolutely. And then they're not even done yet. 63 points from the last 46. However, we're among the top scorers. So there's some little stats in there. Tobes, I'll come to you first. What were your thoughts overall in this game on the 90 minutes?
Expected loss away from home. We've got injuries. and we're going to approach the game in the exact same manner that we did the last game, in the exact same manner that we did in the other game, in the exact same manner that we did the other game. So I expected a loss. I thought it would be a higher scoring loss, but then again, I also, watching the game, I could also recognize why it would just be like a low scoring win for Nottingham Forest, because again, it was just too predictable what we were going to do. And it's not to say that we played like awfully bad. I think we created moments, and if we snuck a point out of there, I don't think anyone would have been too, like, I don't think any Nottingham Forest fan would be like, oh my God, where's that come from? I think we created some moments, but we didn't create enough. We didn't create enough to win the game of football, and we left ourselves exposed in the areas that we always do. They sat back, they defended very well. The two centre-backs defended very well. Murillo, he's one, I think I wanted him last summer, and I think he's one that we should be looking at next summer to play left centre-back alongside Mickey van de Ven. But yeah, no, I just thought it's too predictable, right? Our away record is our away record for a reason. And no, our away record isn't because we've got 4 centre-backs missing. Our away record isn't because we've got midfielders playing in defence. No, our away record is the way it is because we as a side are just not set up well enough to take on the challenges that basically await us away from home. We're just not.
Is mentality some of it, do you think, the players' mentality?
I don't even think it's... Listen, I think in some games we can point to mentality, but you could have the most mentally strong person in the world. If you're doing the same thing over and over again, and it's not working, and you keep expecting different results, what's that called? That's insanity, is it not?
Yeah.
Is it not?
I agree. Yeah.
So, like, you heard the Nottingham Forest players. Elanga literally came out and said in the press conference, yeah, we knew how they were going to play. We knew they're going to leave a lot of space in behind the defense. So we sat in deep, we defended well, and we knew, he literally said, we knew we'd get the opportunities on the counter-attack. And if you look at our goal, okay, cool. Nottingham Forest didn't create tons of chances, but they didn't need to. We have to work twice as hard as every other team to score goals. And yet the teams that we're playing against, they don't have to work anywhere near as hard as we do to score. Look at the goal that we conceded, right? The ball breaks down because Sarr tries to play a pass into our right back, who's occupying a zone that's normally designated for a number 10. Right, our right back is in the... Apologies, my lighting just went off there.
That's okay.
Ignore me. I'll get it back on in a second. So
no worries.
Our right back is stationed in a number 10 zone instead of on the halfway line, ready to defend the transition. He loses the ball, no problem, fine. Right back losing the ball on the edge of the box. That really shouldn't be an issue, but you have to ask yourself the question, why is your right back in that position in the first place? Fine. When he loses the ball, our number 8 is who played the pass to him, gets bypassed by one pass. Our number 6 then gets bypassed as well because of that one pass, because our number 6 is nowhere near is nowhere near the danger man in their midfield, because our number 6 is also part of the team ready to pounce and try and pin in the opposition for the attack. So you have to ask yourself the question, how does the ball breaking down on the edge of their box with 2 passes and 1 carry lead to a clear chance at our goal? Why is that happening? And I don't put that down to, oh, this player is injured, because I've seen Spurs concede that goal over and over and over and over and over again. That's not an injury issue. That's not a personnel issue. That's a structure issue. That's a tactical issue, right? So again, I didn't expect a result from that game because I knew how Nottingham Forest were going to set up. I knew how we were going to set up. I knew the injuries and I knew our current form. It's not a game that Spurs are going to win. Never. Not going to win that game of football. Not in this moment. We're not going to win that game of football. And it's bad that I'm saying that, right? This is a team that we beat last season with 10 men for almost half the game. And I'm going into this game expecting a loss because seeing what I'm seeing this season, we're just not going to approach that game differently.
Yeah, no, it's really interesting to hear. Thank you very much for that. I mean, Sean, do you think we ever look like scoring despite all those possession?
When we went 1-0 down, I didn't expect us to score. No, I must admit. Although Johnson had that good chance in the second half, that's the only time we ever put their keeper under any pressure. I think it's the only save he had to make in the second half. And unless we took those chances in the first half, it's as Tobe said, it was an expected defeat. And like he said, it could have been, we might, going into the game, we could have expected more given our current form. And there's no doubt about it. But we have to remember the Forest have bought an enormous number of players, and some players they've bought and had to sell on again. And we helped them out of a PSR difficulty by buying Brennan Johnson off of them, And it's like it's finally they've got a team and they've got a coach. I mean, I was surprised to see Cooper fail at Forest because I thought he was doing a good job. But obviously Nuno has got he's got his way of playing. He's got a really ugly player like Yates, who does the horrible work in that as a number 6, just chopping and stopping, and all the stuff that we haven't got, that leadership that we need. He's not in the same quality as Rodri, but he does a similar job to Rodri in that he's a nasty piece of work. And if they're under threat, he won't mind taking a yellow card to stop an opposition. And we could not deal with it. And it was again one of those games, a bit like Palace away, a bit like Ipswich at home. When the team gets physical on us, we wilt. And that's the alarming thing about this. We're good at playing teams that want to play, but when things get a bit nasty, the dark arts, as they say, we seem to be susceptible to that. And given our own disciplinary issues, it's a concern. It is a concern.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Benjamin, would you say the top 4's unrealistic now? You're on mute again.
Sorry, guys. Yeah, for sure. Right. Yeah, for sure. It's unrealistic. Yeah, we're not getting top 4. No way. I think you're going to go on to Ange in a bit, I guess. But I think really, if he's going to stay, he needs to put his money where his mouth is with this second season trophy thing, doesn't he? I think that's the only thing really we've got. We need to go out and try and win. We're in 3 cups. We need to try and win one. The fans are crying out for a domestic trophy. We need a trophy. And he's boldly said that he always wins something in second season. If he doesn't, he's just going to be a lifelong meme, isn't he? And he'll live to regret that he said that, won't he?
I think it'd be a whole thing for rival fans as well to laugh at Spurs. I don't think he's.
I think we need to get some context on that quote. Come on. He was just confirming what has happened to him so far. We're the worst ones for reiterating it. Yeah. He was just confirming the truth, which is he has won something within his first 2 seasons of taking over. I just think we're creating a rod for our own backs here.
You are right, Sean, but then again, if we finish this season where we crash out of all of those competitions and we finish mid-table, he can't stay. Like, he can't, can he? Like, we can understand that the performance, the league it's almost a write-off already, and we're halfway through it. It does feel like it, and he's now got, again, we're in a semi-final. I'm not going to lie, going up against Liverpool, I don't see how we beat them, especially after that game at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. I guess, obviously, if we get players back, maybe it changes, but I don't know. And then, Europa League, maybe that's an opportunity, but and then obviously the FA Cup's just starting out, so you don't really know what's going to happen with that. But I feel like if he doesn't win one of those, I don't see how he ends up keeping his job after a Premier League season like this.
Yeah, he should. Let's be honest. The only reason why he's not out of a job now is because Daniel Levy has gone balls deep for him. Like he's spoken about how last season about we've got a Tottenham back, and weirdly this is we're probably seeing a patience that we've not seen and we've been asking for of Daniel Levy for other managers in the past. Like, you need to stay the course. You actually need to back managers properly, because we've all spoken about how the window was not the window that we expected for Ange Postecoglou and how he's been shortchanged, as has been the case with many, many other Spurs managers in the past when it comes to getting even 70% of what the manager actually requires to deal with the season ahead. But that being said, Joe, can I call you Joe or Joseph? Which one do you prefer?
Yeah, no, Joe's fine. Yeah,
Joe. Yeah. So like, I think Joe's spot on. Like, you can't perform like this in a league campaign. You can't perform like this in a league campaign. Like, he has performed badly enough to be sacked. If he was sacked today, nobody can say it's unjustified, even with the Daniel Levy circumstantial issues that face the club. If he was sacked today, nobody can say it's unjustified. He has been absolutely terrible results-wise. He's been terrible. 9 out of 18 losses. This is the lowest position we've been in of any season since Wandy Ramos lost his job many, many years ago. This is not good. We may not be the 4th or even 5th best team in the league, but we are, I can tell you for free, we're way better than 11th. We're way better than 11th.
Yeah.
We're way better than 11th. So for me, I'm with Joe. Like, there's an opportunity to win a League Cup, which I don't think we're going to win. I can't see us going past Liverpool based off how we set up, based off the injuries that we have to contend with. So then there's Europa League. I think when everyone's fit, we probably have, I would say, top three best squads in the Europa League. But we know football doesn't work like that. It's a game of 90 minutes. Anything can happen in 90 minutes, and you need to be switched on throughout. So that's another opportunity to win a trophy. FA Cup remains to be seen. But I'm with Joe. Like, if it was me, I would get rid of him regardless. Even if he wins a trophy this season.
This is what I want to move on to now.
If we won the Europa League, Tones, you'd sack Ange Postecoglou?
Yes,
Europa League?
Yes, I would. Because he's the...
shocking, mate. Shocking.
I would sack him.
Interesting.
I would sack him.
Qualifications into the Champions League as well.
Listen, you know what? Let me rephrase, right? Europa League, to be fair, that's a major trophy. I'd rethink. But my concern is, I don't think he is going to win these trophies. I don't think he is going to win the Europa League. I don't. And to make it nicer for you, fine, cool. If he wins the Europa League, that's your stay of execution. Fine. I can't really, you've done what you said you needed to do, and you've broken our transfer, our trophy hoodoo, right? But I don't believe he's going to win it.
You've lifted the banter.
Yeah.
The trouble with our fan base is we're worried about banter. We're worried
Forget about banter.
We've got Arsenal derangement syndrome as well, because they're doing so well.
Forget about banter. I actually just want to see Tottenham win trophies. But but my worry, Sean, is
and then not reward the coach that won the trophy.
So I'll go back on what I said. I think your point is fair, right? If you are the guy that literally breaks that drought, you get a stay of execution to say, you know what, this is what I'm able to deliver, even with a poor league campaign. Give me some more time. Fine, I can acknowledge that. That's fair, right? But my concern is with the way Ange Postecoglou is setting us up this season, even when players are fit, I don't believe that he's going to do it. Do you believe that we're going to win the Europa League? Honestly?
We've got as good a chance as anyone else. As I say, I do believe.
Agree. That's not why I asked. I said, do you believe we're going to win it?
Oh, I don't.
I don't know. Football is a strange game. It's a funny old game. As one of my most famous players.
It is a funny old game. But if I put a gun to your head, right, based off what you've seen from Tottenham, when everyone's been fit, based off what you've seen from the manager this season, do you believe that Tottenham are going to win the Europa League with the way that we play?
Yeah, we play like we did against Manchester City away. Yeah, we
play like that
against City.
Too inconsistent though, aren't we? We play well one game, bad
exactly.
next. I think the thing I'd compare it to as well is I think Ange is slightly not lucky, but he's at Tottenham, and the fact that he could win a trophy and finish 15th says a lot about us keeping him on. Like, you think about Manchester United, they won the FA Cup. Ten Hag was still being talked about leaving because of how poor the football was. And then he eventually, obviously, he went into the next season. He was still poor, and they sacked him because they had to. Because he was awful for them. He was really, really bad.
Terrible.
And the thing is, I think, we could win a trophy. And again, because Tottenham need it so desperately, 2008 since we've won one, he would then be given that kind of like, oh, you're the greatest manager because you finally won us a trophy. The actual football we're playing is awful. It's really, really poor.
Facts.
Like, we have zero defensive structure. We have no solidity. We played attacking football under Pochettino, and we did not concede the amount of goals we concede like this.
Facts.
It doesn't, to me, it just doesn't make sense that this is where I struggle, because I know I spoke about it before, haven't I, Harry, about I don't think Ange is the right manager for Tottenham. And it's because of his tactics. I understand, he hasn't been dealt the best cards. We've had a lot of injuries. It's completely understandable. But you adjust in the games. You have to sometimes, when you've got injuries, you've got to change the way you play slightly. No manager, other than Russell Martin and Ange so far I've seen this season, sticks with exactly the same style of play in every match you play. No one else does it. You've got to change. You've got to adapt depending on what game you play. And Ange is just, he never does it. The reason I don't see us winning, the Europa League is because, there's times when we'll play great and we'll demolish a team, and in the next game we're going to really struggle, and you just don't know what you're going to get. You've got no consistency. So we come up against one team in the Europa League that we're expected to win, we'll probably lose it. Or if we play against a team that we aren't expected to win, we might end up demolishing them. You just never know what you're going to get. And without any consistency, I just don't see how we can succeed long term as well.
We went into that Ipswich game with a little bit of momentum as Spurs fans, didn't we? And then look what happened there.
Exactly. And then we go against City and we beat them 4-0. And it's like, how did we do that? And then we go against a team that maybe isn't as good. And you just see so much worse performance.
I'll tell you, Joe, it's because against Man City play a high risk game because of their usually solid press, right? Which hasn't been as solid as it's been this season. Man City will let Tottenham to a certain extent play the way that they want to play. Same with Aston Villa, because these teams they're focusing on trying to hurt the opposition as much as possible. They still have some defensive stability, not as much this season, mind you. But they're going to let Tottenham play their football. Ipswich came with a game plan to stop Tottenham playing their football, right? And to your point, I've tried to give Ange so many allowances. It was literally, I think the breaking point for me was after that Chelsea game. I'm just like, I can't do this anymore, because you keep wanting and hoping that someone's going to change. What happens, Sean? What happens, God forbid, but what happens if Tottenham make that final and we see Van de Ven get an injury, or we see Romero get an injury, and Dragusin comes in? Do you trust him to adjust the way he's going to play to suit Dragusin in that final? Or do you think that he's just going to play the same way, and then the opposition manager is just going to look at the fact that, okay, you know what, Dragusin's playing, he's not good on the ball, let's press him, let's try and push Tottenham to let him have possession, and then we can get the ball back? My concern is we have a manager who doesn't actually cater for the opposition. And when people ask him to make changes,
I get your concern.
So when people
feel that way,
I just think when people ask him in press conferences, why did you set up this way? This is that and the third. He gets bullish, he gets defensive, and for whatever reason, I think he feels like making a tweak means you're compromising your entire philosophy, which I can't, for the life of me, understand. Joe made the perfect point in Pochettino. With Pochettino, we were known as an aggressive, high-pressing team. That didn't change. That did not change until the point in which those players had been spent, rinsed. We didn't replace the team, and those players' energy levels and physicality started to fade. When they were at our best, we were a high-pressing team, and yet we still had defensive stability. We still had I think 2 seasons on the trot, we had the joint best defensive record. You can still play your football. You can still play your football and make a plan for the opposition, right? The very best managers do that. We beat Dortmund 3-1 with Pochettino going to a back three and letting Dortmund have the ball. That was we had 37% possession that game. We won that game 3-1 because we hit the opposition where they were most vulnerable. And with Spurs, it's either his way or the highway. I'm sorry, it has to be the highway if this is going to continue. It does, because we're not going to get anywhere fast with this type of approach.
Yeah. No, thank you, Tobbs. I'm just going to go around the panel and get, just if that's all right, a yes or no answer. And I'm going to ask whether, you're still behind Ange or not. So, yeah, just a yes or no would be appreciated. Then we're going to get Ange Postecoglou's thoughts, get the thoughts of a Forest fan, and then move on to Wolves. We've still got quite a big segment to do that. So we'll try and move through it as quickly as possible. So those listening and, maybe after or live, both do stay tuned. That'd be massively appreciated. So, Sean, I'll kick it off with you. Are you still behind Ange? Yes or no?
Yeah, because we're in a multi-window, multi-season rebuild, which, as I said, tried to make the point earlier, it's almost like we're in November 2019. We haven't. It's almost like I've had to write off that period where we were win now managers who didn't win now. And we're now doing the thing that Pochettino was crying out for with his painful rebuild quote, which has been So yeah, I'm still behind Ange, and I will be until he will probably be sacked, and then we'll see, and I'll be behind the next manager because that's what I am. I'm a Tottenham Hotspur fan.
Definitely. David Clark in the YouTube chat thinks that it'd be interesting to see what happens in January, or whether he sacks Ange or not. That's what he reckons will happen. So thank you for giving his thoughts. Joesph, are you still behind Ange? Yes or no?
No. And it's, to me, it's just down to the tactic. I just think it's not. I personally don't see the tactic ever bringing sustained success to Tottenham because of how open we are. I think maybe it's a generalized point, but I think it's worked with Celtic because he had probably debatably the best team in the league. Him and Rangers were they were two quality teams in Scotland. I think it's worked maybe in other places he's been to.
Not the Celtic he inherited, Joe. Not the Celtic he inherited.
But
Celtic 20-odd points behind Rangers.
Yeah, but Celtic are always going to be first or second in Scotland. They always have been.
There is no second in Scotland. If you're Celtic, there is no second.
Yeah, but I'm just not. I don't think the Tottenham team he's got now is not good enough. Is not better than every other team in the Premier League, which is why he's never going to have sustained success unless we go and spend crazy amounts of money to make ourselves the best team, and we're not going to do that. So I just personally don't see success coming from the tactics that we have. So
no, fair enough. No, thank you very much. We've got a yes and a no. Tobbs, before you go, you could give your thoughts on Postecoglou, whether he's still behind him or not. Yes or no?
No, I'm not.
No.
I'm not. Really nice guy. I really wanted it to work. But there's only so much you can take. There's only so many times you can think a manager's going to change when he just keeps showing you who he is. And this is who he is. He's a nice guy. His tactics will work in some matches. His tactics will fail in other matches. But the point that Joe even alluded to is this isn't sustainable. I thought it could be, but it just isn't. It's not sustainable. A manager who doesn't prioritize both ends of the football pitch will never really bring success to a football club. They won't. And that's just where I am with Ange Postecoglou. I think the lack of tactical flexibility or adjustments, or the lack of consistent adjustments, because I'm not going to sit here and pretend like he can't make changes. He has made changes, which makes it all the more frustrating. There have been specific games where he's made changes, and for whatever reason, he just doesn't want to do these things consistently. But the second thing is the stubbornness as well. There's a fine line between self-belief and stubbornness, and he exhibits the exact same traits in terms of stubbornness that we had from Antonio Conte. We remember Antonio Conte, where the football was absolutely shocking, and we had a manager who didn't want to change anything about it to fix it. We have a manager on the other end of the scale who's playing almost an ultra-attacking way of football, but doesn't want to do anything about it when that football doesn't work, beyond bring on different players to try and play the same way. It's not going to work at Tottenham, Levy or not. So, yeah, man, it's done for me.
Okay, fair enough. Do you have to jump, mate? Do you have to jump, Toby? Yeah?
Yeah,
thank you very much.
Cheers.
No, thank you for coming on. Where can people find you on the socials? Oh, actually, don't worry. He's jumped anyway. He's gone. That's fine. Appreciate him coming on nonetheless. Yeah, we've finished the Forest review and move on to Wolves, if that's okay, guys. So, firstly, let's hear from Ange Postecoglou post-match.
Thanks for joining us. 1-0 against Forest. What were your thoughts on it?
Yeah, obviously disappointing, but tight game. It was never going to be sort of one of those games where there was going to be a lot of opportunities. I still thought we had our fair share that we could have capitalised on, but we weren't able to do so. And in a tight game, it wasn't much between the two teams.
I mean, the stats suggest that a decent performance out there, Ange. To be fair,
well, the boys are giving everything. I can't ask for any more. We're asking for a lot of them, but it's not through the one of trying. And like I said, that's all I can ask for them. They're putting in the effort. We just weren't able to get over the top today.
How tough is it, Andrew, when they are putting in that effort and we do come away from a title night today with nothing?
Yeah, it's tough, but like I said, I mean, I can't fault the players' efforts, and ultimately, they keep trying as hard as they can to kind of get us out of this, and they'll continue to do so.
Sean, what were your thoughts on his assessment there? Again, he's sticking by the players, really complimentary of them and making it clear that, we have got injuries and this is why the results aren't going the way we want.
Well, I mean, I never judge Ange in a post-match interview when we've lost, because he's got that Australian competitive nature. We saw it when it came to that Man City game last year. He couldn't understand why certain fans wanted us to lose. It's he wants to win every game, and it hurts him. And I think he shows that. And I mean, with the exception of Werner, who no one here would disagree deserved to be put under a bus, he doesn't call out his players, but I'm sure he does it in private. I'm sure in the confines of the dressing rooms, he'll be saying to Spence, "What the hell were you doing getting booked for throwing the ball away?" Or those things that are going to make his job even more difficult. I'm feeling he's being broken, and I've seen it before. And part of me as a human being would say, Ange, you don't need it, because you're getting burned by the fans, you're getting burned by the ownership, and you'll go on to other things, better things, and probably win things elsewhere, because it's the curse of Tottenham Hotspur. We like to, if we don't get things tomorrow, or we don't get things today, even we'll turn on our players or our coaches or whatever. It's very, very disappointing. It's taken me, I've been going since the 60s, and I've seen this too many times already.
Definitely. Next, I want to play the thoughts, or get the Forest point of view. So sending in his thoughts, like he did for the match preview, Joesph will know, is Dan from Talk Forest TV. So here is the Forest view from Dan on that win.
Hey Spurs fans, hope you're alright. Obviously, Dan back here from Talk Forest TV. Obviously, I'm here to give you a bit of a underdog on Boxing Day, which Forest won 1-0. Obviously, personally, I think it's a great result for Forest. I know that you guys had a lot of the ball and had some really good chances. But, I mean, by the two Brennan chances and the chance for the free kick that Delano put his flag up, I felt like that. You guys probably struggled to break his stand, and our backline was just terrific, and that Haaland got you caught up with Ilando's goal as well. So, great goal by Ilando, and fair play on Forest, because it soaked a lot of your pressure, and it put me on my edge of my seat, to be fair, that we actually take with it. And when we brought Morata on, it just felt more and more comfortable. And I mean, don't get me wrong, I think that you guys got to keep with and just trying to develop it. But I feel like at the minute, especially watching you guys on Boxing Day, you got some clear vision on how you want to play, but you just don't seem to have that squad depth to compete with it all, because obviously with the injuries and that and suspensions now with Jed. Personally, I think Brennan deserved what he got on Boxing Day. Honestly, he should have shown more respect to Forest, but hey ho. But yeah, great result for Forest. Good luck for the rest of the season. Coming you, Ed. Thank you and goodbye.
I love that. It made me laugh. He did do it when he done the pre-match thing as well. Just love it. So
he was quite gentle on us, wasn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. So it was really interesting to get the thoughts. But Joesph, one thing that I don't know surprised me a little bit was mentioning Brennan Johnson. Do you think he was ever disrespectful to Forest? Could he show more respect?
No, not really. I don't know. I didn't notice anything of any kind of disrespect. I think he's always seemed to show his love for Forest. I think he respects that. That's where he kind of came through and kind of came into his own. I think anyone saying that he made the wrong decision joining Tottenham to go from Forest, I think they'd be wrong, because I understand Forest have had a great season, but if you look at obviously the two clubs and where what you expect from them, you'd expect Tottenham to be where Forest are right now. So you'd expect it to be kind of vice versa. So yeah, he made that move. He brought in 50 million for the club, which is a big fee for Forest. So no, I mean, I think I don't understand. Maybe it's just kind of. I mean, we saw it with Aston Villa when Jack Grealish went to go play there and people were booing him, and I just thought to me it seems kind of shocking, because it's like he's made you 100 million, and he's kind of pretty much with that money. Look at where you are now. You wouldn't be there if you just had Jack Grealish and didn't make
and everything he's done for them before that as well.
Exactly. Brennan Johnson helped Forest get up to the Premier League again. He was a big part of that in the Championship. So yeah, I mean, again, I think maybe there's I think there is a lack of respect in football in that sense. So when a player leaves your team, they just become an enemy at that point, don't they? So yeah, it is what it is. But to be fair, again, Brennan, he wasn't terrible, but that second half, I know we never mentioned it, but that so many times where the ball was played over the top, and it wasn't the perfect ball, but his lack of energy to run and chase that ball down, so disgusting, to be honest. You'll just see that ball kind of like trickle out, and there was potential for him to chase that ball down and get there, and he gave up before as the ball was played. I wish he was still at Forest. I don't want him at Tottenham right now.
Okay, fair enough. You're absolutely entitled to your opinion. I personally like Johnson, but I can understand people's frustration in terms of his all-round game. It isn't there. I completely understand that. Sean, what have you made of Nottingham Forest? I mean, 4 wins in a row for them now. They're doing really well, aren't they? Ticking along nicely, and as you said, recruited well and really back to Nuno, who is, I think, doing well at the moment with this Forest side.
Yeah, I mean, they've got a system based on defence that allows them to release their attacking players as and when. They've got a threat in Wood, who's a nuisance at set pieces, which again we dealt with quite well on Boxing Day, which is another charge aimed at Ange. They're doing very well. I mean, they're happy to go along. I mean, they've got no distractions in terms of cups or Europe, so that's all well and good. If they do manage to get into Europe next year, it'll be interesting how they will cope with that particular thing.
I don't think they'll be able to. That's the thing, isn't it? These clubs can't cope with 2 games a week.
Villa have struggled this year. Other teams seem to struggle when you're playing extra games, unless you've got the depth of squad and the quality of the squad of a Liverpool. Or dare I say Arsenal at the moment. It's difficult to know. I mean, they're enjoying themselves, and they are where they are rightly because they're doing a job. Any team that takes points from Anfield, you have to take your hat off to them.
Absolutely, and we'll move on to Wolves now. So, Sean, I'll stay with you. How are you feeling ahead of this game tomorrow?
Well, until I saw that tweet about practicing with Basuma at centre back, I was hoping upon hope that we would play Dorrington, or there would be some kind of miracle and someone would be available who's actually played in that position. So I must admit, I'm not looking forward to the game in terms of a result for us. I always look forward to watching Spurs because I'm a Spurs fan, and in the end, I will back my team as much as I can. But it's going to be a tough day. I mean, they're in a good, as that classic, they're in a good moment, as Ange would say. They've had a couple of good victories. They're from all accounts, they were well worth their win against Man U. But then,
absolutely,
it's going to be a tough day given what we have available, and I really don't know what Ange can do in order to play. I don't know what team he's going to pick. It's really a kind of, I don't envy him, to be honest. But he'll be trying to pull something out of the bag. If we could get a point, even, that would be.
What would your lineup be, Sean? Because you mentioned there about players out. Yeah, we haven't got many choices. It was down to you. Don't worry about Andrew. What would you do with these players you've got? You mentioned like Dorrington there. Well, I want to hear what your lineup would be.
Well, I would probably go with. It kind of picks itself, I suppose. You'd go Fraser in goal, Porro, Gray and Dorrington, Udogie. I suppose Basuma comes back. Sarr and Kulu. And then I suppose it's Johnson, Solanke and Son. I can't. I don't know who else is available. We just haven't got players available, and it's I don't expect it to be a team that will, unless they get the rub of the green, which we're overdue maybe. I can't see us getting 3 points as I sit today.
No, okay, fair enough. Thank you, Sean. Joesph, how are you feeling ahead of this one? Tottenham versus Wolves, Sunday afternoon, 3 p.m. And also, what would your team look like? Obviously, not a lot to play with at all.
Yeah, I mean, I can't say I'm confident. I remember Wolves against us last season. They beat us at home 2-0. So that was pretty poor performance. Obviously, Wolves with the new manager bounce against United. I think they probably did deserve that win. I would like to put part of that though on Manchester United being quite poor. Obviously, Bruno Fernandes getting that second yellow as well kind of changed that game. I don't think United were great, and even then they did push for an equaliser. So yeah, I mean, I think Wolves have got a couple of things to iron out. I think that manager's still probably getting to know his squad and to see what works for him. So it's hard, really. I feel like, again, at any usual point, I'd be going into this game thinking, we've got to go and win this game. But obviously, yeah, with all these injuries we've got, I can't sit here, and with the performances we've had recently, I can't sit here and say I expect to win. I'm hoping for at least a point, though. I feel like this is a game that we can get something from, even with the back line. I mean, Wolves have been awful defensively all year. When they sold Max Kilman, they didn't replace him, did they? And we're seeing kind of the drop-off in Craig Dawson. And, they're not a great squad. They've got Mateus Cunha looks good. Mario Lemina is a pretty decent player. But they've not got quality everywhere on the pitch. And, I think even with our injuries, I think we should be going into it thinking we've got as good a chance as winning this game as they do, which I wouldn't say we had against Nottingham Forest. With my starting team, I think it's obviously got to be Fraser Forster in net, with Vicario obviously being injured. Probably Porro back. Well, it has to be Porro back. I'd go Dorrington as well. I'd like to see him play, but let's be honest, I think it's going to be Basuma and Gray, and then Udogie at left back. I think I'd stick with Bentancur in the middle, probably with Basuma. Maybe give Sarah a rest and have him on the bench for this game. Kulusevski, no, maybe Maddison through the middle. Oh, my camera gone. Maddison through the middle with Kulusevski on the right. Son on the left and Solanke up front. Well, also I'm hoping maybe Mikey Moore gets onto the bench. I don't know if he's ready or not just yet, but I've seen him post this thing on his Instagram of him playing at the Tottenham Stadium. I think he might be getting back to full fitness and ready to get back within the squad. So I think I'm praying for him to be on the bench, because I think if he is, if we are struggling, he can come on and make an impact. But we'll see if that happens or not.
Yeah, absolutely. Joesph, score prediction. What are you thinking?
I'm going to go either 2-1 Tottenham or a 2-2. For some reason, I've just got a feeling that we can get a result here. I don't know why. Kind of against everything I've been saying over this podcast, but I don't know. Part of me just thinks we might be able to get something from this game. The thing is, you just never know what to expect with Tottenham. So we could go out there and lose 2-0 again, or we could go out there and give a performance. So but I think it would be silly not to expect them to get a goal. It's just whether our attack can kind of get going and firing, which I think we can. I think we, in the attack, you still see, opportunities created. And I think, we've kind of got the attack that we would want. So I can see us at least getting a goal, but it's going to be a tough game. Wolves are not a bad side. They probably shouldn't be where they are in the league. And I'm looking forward to the game. As much as it's been disappointing watching Tottenham recently, I'm still looking forward to watching my club.
Yeah, absolutely. That's always refreshing to hear. Sean, what's your score prediction? If I may ask, we're impossible to predict, I think, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm probably going to go with Joseph's two options: either close to 1 win, 3-2 win to us, or a draw. I'll never want to back against my team, and sometimes that's obviously I'm being a bit deluded, but I'm allowed to be. I'm nearly on the edge of senile dementia, so I can just say what I want. Let's hope it's a nice end to the year for ourselves as fans, for the coach, and for the players, who could do with a bit of a boost prior to what's going to be we think things have been bad in December. They don't get much easier in January, to be honest. Arsenal in the middle of it somewhere. Arsenal away. So
coming up though. We need to make some additions, don't we?
Yeah. I mean, it's a difficult one to think, because are we going to buy players on the grounds that we're going to release players in the summer, or I don't want us to finish up with a situation where we're having to leave players out of squads because
we don't want that again. We had a squad overload not that long ago.
Yeah,
so, I understand that, but we've got to fill some of these holes that have
definitely
that we've had.
Absolutely.
We've got to. If that means a centre back, one more centre back. Again, we have got a lot of centre backs at the club in general. Obviously, with like you said, Ashley Phillips out on loan. We've got that Luka Vuskovic coming in, who looks like a quality player at a young age. The Croatian.
Yeah, Vuskovic won't be in. People have been saying he can come in January. He can't. He's on loan until. He's on loan to the summer, so we can forget about him coming back early.
No, obviously not. But again, even if you look at it in total, we've got quite a lot of centre backs, but I still think we do need one more. A left back, probably. I think you could use. You could maybe look at a more settled defensive midfielder, because no one's really made.
Yeah, a monster number 6 would be great.
Exactly. You need probably a winger. There's so many players that we need. It's just whether Levy's going to come out and do the business that we need him to, which, let's be honest, I don't know if any of us believe he truly will.
Oh, let's see what happens. Before we get the thoughts from a Wolves point of view, here's what the Premier League table looks like going into our next game. So we are all the way down in 11th, so that means we are behind Brighton, Aston Villa, Fulham, City, Bournemouth, Newcastle, Arsenal, Nottingham Forest, Chelsea, and Liverpool, Liverpool in first, who are doing very well. We're actually closer to the relegation zone than the top four, so that's obviously a shame. But I decided to read out the table because obviously those who listen via audio wouldn't be able to see it. But yeah, Tottenham in 11th place. A lot of people always ask where Man United are. They're in 14th, but West Ham are on the same amount of points of us now in 30th. Exactly the same with Brentford in 12th. And like I said, they've got the likes of Aston Villa and Brighton quite close above us. But at the same time, we could have got, if we'd beaten Liverpool, we would have been 3 points behind top four. So it is close either way. I think it just shows how congested it is.
It is a bit concertinaed in the middle, isn't it? I mean, I think we were like 6 points from a European spot, but we're also, so many points away from.
It is close. Really, but us being on the same amount of points as West Ham is awful. West Ham have been shocking this season. They've been so poor, and we're on the same amount of points as them. It's really disappointing.
You had a nice gap over them not that long ago as well. That's 9 points. That's gone. It's a real shame. But now we get the thoughts, getting that opposition just perspective. So here is Dave from Talking Wolves. Very big independent Wolves channel, 57,000 followers, actually a little bit more than that on X. So really appreciate him sending in his thoughts.
Hi guys, it's Dave from Talking Wolves. Just giving my quick thoughts for you ahead of Tottenham versus Wolves this weekend. And unfortunately for Spurs fans, Wolves are coming into this game with a little bit of form and momentum. Under Vitor Pereira, we've won the last 2 games. 2 wins, 2 clean sheets, 5 goals scored for Wolves against Leicester and Manchester United. And I understand, obviously, you guys have got some players out. So I think Wolves fans are probably going into this game with a little bit of optimism. A third win from 3 for Vitor Pereira would be absolutely massive. And as of right now, we've just sort of creeped out of the drop zone, and another 3 points on top of that would put Wolves in a fantastic position, considering where we were maybe just a week before Christmas under Gary O'Neill. But look, we know Tottenham are a very tough team to play. They've got some fantastic wins this season. Wolves are quite a counter-attacking team, so I think with the high line that Spurs tend to play with, it'll be an interesting tactical battle, certainly. But we got the double over you guys last season. Both tough games. We had to work hard to get those wins. But I remember the game at Molineux where you had a lot of players out, you took an early lead, and we sort of had to work quite hard and dig in quite deep to get that result. And I would expect the same again this weekend as well. But, I know Postecoglou, I think he's a fantastic manager, but under a little bit of pressure right now. And from a Wolves point of view, I certainly hope we can continue to pile that pressure on you guys. But going to be a tight game, I think. I'll probably side towards Wolves getting the 3 points just because, I've got my old gold-tinted glasses on. And I'll probably go with a 2-1 Wolves win, but it could certainly be 2-1 either way, because I think we all know, Tottenham have got the quality, and probably a full-strength Tottenham should be beating Wolves. But with the form and quality that we're on in at the moment, I have no doubt, we could give Spurs a really tough game, and I'll back our boys to get all 3 points.
Oh, there we go. Thank you very much for him for sending in his thoughts. Very balanced, level-headed. You can totally tell it's part of the successful Wolves channel and podcast. Joesph, I want to know where you think Wolves can hurt us in this game, because Cunha, obviously, he's been fined. He's expected. Well, he will be banned. It's just a matter of when. I mean, his ban couldn't come soon enough from a Spurs point of view, could it?
No, it couldn't. I mean, he's their danger man, really, isn't he? I think he's a player that a lot of teams are going to look at in January. Whether he will get a move, I doubt it, because I don't know if Wolves will allow him to go. But he's definitely a player that's probably on his way out in the summer. He's looked quality this season. I don't know. I think he's really their main guy. I like Strand Larsen as well. I don't know if he's fit and available for this game, but he's been really
he is,
good.
yeah.
I think he's been quite good for Wolves since he's come in. So, yeah, I think the forward areas, they look good. I think defensively, we can get in behind them as much as they can probably get in behind us. I think their midfield is okay. I like Lamina. But yeah, I think the danger man really is Matheus Cunha, and I think if he gets the freedom that we've given other players like Gibbs White, like even Alanga and Hudson-Odoi in that game against Forest, he can definitely punish us because he's definitely got the quality to. And with the injuries in our defensive line, you think him up against Archie Gray 1-on-1, him up against Basuma 1-on-1, he can have the beating of them. So I think Matheus Cunha is definitely the guy we've got to watch out for.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. Sean, what have you made of Wolves this year? They've sacked Gary O'Neill, brought in Victor Pereira. What's really impressed me, I don't know about you, but it's 2 clean sheets in 2. I mean, Wolves, when have they looked defensively good? All of a sudden, 2 clean sheets, Leicester, Man United.
Yeah, it was strange, actually, because I think Gary O'Neill was on the rough end of some very dodgy VAR decisions this season, much like last year. And
like last year, yeah.
Yeah, and they weren't getting the results that maybe their performances deserved, but in the end, they've made the decision that they needed to make the change. They were obviously in the bottom 3 at the time, and they needed to make the change at the top that they have done. They've obviously got strong links with the Portuguese market. That remains the case, and this coach is another Portuguese wonder coach, it would appear. But time will tell. Is it a new manager bounce time, or does the new manager bounce time finish after 3 games? Well, as a Spurs fan, I hope it is. They've just had their two new manager bounce games, and we're going to arrest them. But yeah, it's they've always been a good side. I mean, I remember that classic game where Ndombele was playing in midfield for us, and they just walked through us, and they won that game 3-2. It was another painful experience. They seem to have they seem to win at our place quite well. We seemed to win at their place quite well, but the last 2 visits have not been so happy. I just it's going to be a tough game, and they're obviously their sights all set on getting our way from the bottom of the table, and they're we've got to keep them there because we don't want to be dragged in that direction.
Absolutely, 100%. That wraps us up nicely for this additional episode in the midweek of the Scarfey Spurs Talk Podcast. I mean, sorry to keep you so long. It was such a long one. I knew it would be. It's why we even agreed to do this additional podcast, because I knew with Spurs, a lot of games this week, there'll be a lot to discuss. And there absolutely was. If you're new to the channel, do smash that subscribe button. It is absolutely free to do so. A lot of people get confused with the word subscribe because it often means outside of YouTube paid, but with YouTube it's not. It's just another word for follow, because it is free to do so, and it does help the channel and the podcast grow. Check out both our sponsors, the Kitman and Security VPN. We thank them for sponsoring the show. We're listening via audio podcast platform. Don't forget to drop us a follow and a 5-star review if you enjoyed the show, whether you be new, whether you be a regular. Please do so. Thank you to my panel. I want to thank Benjamin Knibb, who had to jump off earlier last minute, and he didn't get a chance to say goodbye. I want to thank him. Also want to thank Toby for coming on as well, just for a little bit. And I also want to thank Joesph and Sean, who have got on with me now. Firstly, Sean, thank you very much. I think it was your debut on the podcast.
It is, yes, my debut, and the fans will or the lack of fans, looking at the comments, will tell me what it's like to be a Spurs youth team player appearing at home in your first game. But anyway, no, thanks for the invite. Yours is a great, youthful channel, very, very informative. Great guests. It was good to see Joesph, good to speak to Toby and Benjamin, as ever. And, come on, you Spurs.
Absolutely. Where can people find you on the socials?
Yeah, well, my X or Twitter is at Tottenham Tifosi 61. 61, that was the year I was born. A very good year for Tottenham Hotspur.
Yes, it was.
And I am part of the PRTV Spurs family. You can occasionally see me on there as well, too.
Yeah, that's a good podcast. That I've been on there before. Had the pleasure. So thank you very much for coming on, Sean. You're welcome back anytime. So thank you for coming on. Joesph, talk about being welcome back anytime. The absolute same applies to you. It's great to have you on finally for a full podcast. I'm very sorry that it was a long one as well to invite you on for your first full one. Where can people find you across social media? Appreciate your insight.
On X, Joesph THFC. Again, thank you for having me. Really appreciate being welcome back. Excellent host as always, Harry. So well done to you as well.
Thank you.
And look forward to being on the podcast in the future. Really enjoy getting to give my opinion and also speak to other Spurs fans. Hopefully we can have some smoother waters soon and we'll be talking a bit more positively. But we'll see how that goes. It's always going to be a ride with Tottenham, isn't it?
Yeah, it certainly is. Absolutely. Thank you very much all. Enjoy the rest of your day, whatever's left of it, depending on when and wherever you're listening. But a massive come on you Spurs.